know, guys, one of the things that my mother, one of her favorite quotes was, "Dream big dreams, small dreams have no magic." And you know, that brings us, Tom, to step number one, your dreams. You know, my dad used to say it's more important to know why than to know how. And in these 8 action steps, we're going to teach people a lot about how to build this business. But something that is so personal to that newest brand partner is why are they building this business? And who wants to kick that one off?
Well, BK, I'll jump in on this one because I think this is the most important step of the 8 steps, and here's why. You know, everyone, all of us in Vemma, we're in a volunteer army. So in other words, nobody's going to drive you, call you, tell you what to do every day, check on you. Nobody's going to do that. The most important thing is what's going to sustain you as you get up every day, you know, and things are pulling at your day. I mean, time-wise, you have job, you have family, you have church, you have
hear it.
You have all these things pulling at you in so many directions. But so therefore, what's going to sustain you? What's going to cause you to take a certain amount of time every day and allocate it to Vemma?
And what is that?
It's the why. It's the purpose. It's the dream. It's the thing that excites you.
Well, you know, going along those lines, what was your why when you first started in this industry?
Many years ago, BK, I worked for 1 year for somebody else, and I realized I did not want to do that for the next 39 years. I found this vehicle as a way to get free. To all of a sudden, if you will, get my life back, to get in control of my time. And wow, and here was this incredible added advantage that there was no limitation on the income that I could enjoy.
Only the limits you put on yourself.
Exactly.
All right, and Ruth?
Well,
and I also want to know about your why, but I also want to hear it from a woman's perspective, you know, because you come in here and you got Tom and I, you know, telling it like it is from a guy's perspective, but from a woman's perspective, what was your first why when you got started in this industry, and what still propels you through the business now?
You bet. Well, my why years ago was being tied to wanting to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted a second stream of income for our family, but I didn't necessarily want a second job. And so I had the benefits of that. And through some difficult financial times, we ended up having to make some changes in our household. And so prior to Vemma, I actually did a full-time job for 5 years. And that's where I understood the true value of time freedom. You know, you go to a job and then you try to manage from a woman's perspective your home and your children, and it was very difficult. So I was attracted to Vemma for the simplicity of it, for the power of residual income. I was attracted to the fact that I could go back to put my household and managing my children first, and to really receive full-time rewards with part-time efforts. And it evolved into being able to make tremendous financial changes in our life that now Vemma is my full-time job.
You've given up the other job?
Absolutely, I have.
That's nice to hear. Okay, let's take the folks through a dreaming exercise. Where do you get started? How do how do people define their why?
Well, BK, I think where this begins is, so many people say, you know what, I don't need to write that down. You know, I know what that is. Well, that's probably the biggest mistake that we hear made over and over and over again. Something magical happens when you follow the exercises that are in front of you in terms of step 1, meaning taking the time to actually in script write down how your life would change. How would it change? What would change? What would happen? That's part of the dreaming process. That's part of the dynamic that all of a sudden what's in your head now all of a sudden gets onto paper. And you know, I know that many people coming into Vemma from all walks of life and all backgrounds have all kinds of levels of success from various areas of life, and yet the dynamic of putting this on paper, this dreaming exercise that's laid out for you, you can follow it, is so important as a beginning step.
You know, when I was a distributor, I remember having a picture of a house that was right up on the wall in front of the phone where I made my calls. And the reason I put it there is my dad said, you know, son, some of the phone calls are going to go great, some not so good. And you need to keep the reason why right in front of you. And so I encourage people to define why they want to build this business. What kind of a lifestyle? You know, one of the biggest things my dad used to say is, he goes, how hard would you work over the next 12 to 24 months if you could set yourself up financially for the rest of your life?
Well, I'll say in the 20-year experience of being, entrepreneurial minded, I've tried it where I've written goals and where I've just kept them in my mind. And it's far different. The results are far different when you write them down. And I did that at the beginning of Vemma. Not only did I do the exercises, but I put a dry erase board in my office, and I kept that visual in front of me at all times, including the value of attending events and establishing your why in an environment where Brian Tracy actually inspired me to write down 10 things that I wanted my life to be. And at the time, they seemed crazy. I wouldn't have shown maybe the person sitting next to me. But I'll tell you, he said, circle the one thing action-oriented, and it will take you to the rest of those dreams and goals. And I'll tell you, all 10 things have come true since then.
Well, BK, you said have a picture or have something, a visual reminder. I remember when I first learned about this industry, and my motivation was, after working 1 year for somebody else, I wanted freedom. So I went and I got a nameplate made at an office supply store. You know how most people have their name on their desk? Well, I didn't want my name on my desk. I had one word put on this nameplate, and it was the word freedom. And I had that nameplate.
You still have that?
I still have it.
Yeah.
And that nameplate was facing me, so that every day while I was at work, I was reminded about what it is. Just like you said, I was reminded about what it is that I wanted to accomplish, what I was dreaming about.
Well, that is kind of big picture concepts, but I know, Ruth, I've heard your story many times. When you got started in this business, in this industry, your goal was to just make enough money for, I think it was new drapes, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Had a new home and realized at the time it was going to cost far more money than I had dreamed to put, window treatments up. So I had to make that decision. Do you put your kids in daycare to afford something like that, or do you find a unique way to do it from a stay-at-home mom perspective? And I found it.
So a person's why can actually evolve and become bigger. It might not be the big dream house or the time freedom and all that. It might start off with, hey, if I can make an extra $300 to $500 a month, that's going to take some pressure off the family budget. I know the average personal bankruptcy is because of a $300 a month deficit compounded month after month. And so sometimes their why might be a little more humbled at the very beginning.
Well, BK, I think we want people to start with the big picture, to dream big, like you opened this segment up, to dream big and to follow the exercise and to write that out. And then as they'll see, as they follow through step one, you'll see a 3-year cash flow goal, a 1-year cash flow goal, and most importantly, a 6-month cash flow goal, meaning we're going to put some substance to what we want to help you accomplish in the first 6 months in your business. But I think it's important to step it out there. How big would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail?
Well, you know what? For every yin, there's a yang. And for every dream, there's a dream stealer out there. And I remember when I was selling advertising and I got into this industry, and I was working it part-time for the first 6 months, and after 6 months, because I hated my job, I was able to have enough money to go full-time. And I remember how happy and how proud I was to be able to turn my notice in. And I thought he was a good friend, came up to me, one of my sales buddies, salesman guy, and he says, you'll be back begging for your job in 6 months. And I don't know what motivates you, man, but that still plays in my head some 20 years later. When somebody tells me I can't do it, you're going to fail, how do you deal with the dream stealers? Because some of them are very well intentioned. They're typically relatives of some part.
Some might be in your family. You're gonna find out real quick. But they're out there, and of course this talks about the importance, as we go through the 8 steps today, of staying plugged in. Of your lifeline to your dreams, so to speak, is your Vemma family, and making certain that you're plugged in on a weekly basis to people that are of like mind. So hey, there's going to be those dream stealers out there. You're going to have people telling you all the time, you're crazy. You can't do that, you can't do this. All those kind of things are going to occur. So what must you do to insulate, if you will, or ensure that the dream has a chance to be realized? You've got to stay plugged in. We'll talk about that as we go through.
Ruth,
absolutely. I ditto Tom. That's exactly right.
All right, so the end of step 1, we want to define your why. We want to do the dreams exercise, and lastly, we want to do your income goals. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just to conclude on the income goals, the importance of a 6-month cash flow goal. Okay, so you're starting today. What do we want to do? We want you to have a blueprint as to 6 months from today, working backwards right down to today, And in one most important, if you will, common denominator, a certain amount of dollars, yes, at the end of 6 months, but that's going to be created by the number of new people that are added to your team over the next 6 months. So we encourage you to sit with your enroller, with your upline diamond, and allow them to break that down for you. You want $1,000 a month 6 months from now, then break that down as to what needs to happen in terms of number of new people in the next 30 days, and you're on your way.
Well, I think we started this segment with saying that you know, your income is in direct reflect to how many times do you share your story. And so with that in mind, if you're sharing your story, you're doing something to positively impact the goals that you're talking about.
Absolutely. Great stuff, team. Let's get on to step number 2.